All right, guys, so let's begin. So as introduced, those are my names, Cecil Migayi. I work for Safaricom as an engineer level 2, and I'm also excited to be here. This is like one of the first experiences that I'm having for masterclass through LinkedIn. So it's exciting for you guys to be part of that journey with me. So I'm sure most of you guys have researched on what RPA is or what is robotic process automation. Some of you probably didn't get the chance, but it's actually a very common thing right now in the market. Not that big, but there are countries that have already adopted it. And just before I define it, I'll define something so that it can help me give the definition more value in terms of how you see it. So I'll use a car to define RPA, or to help me get to defining RPA. So when you ask to define a car, there are two ways you can define a car. You can either define it by describing the car. Let me just remove this. Or you can define it by its value. And most of the time, I think you guys can see the definitions there. So most of the time, from my own definitions, I always prefer to define something based on their value. Defining it by defining it is still fine, but there's important in terms of giving something value when you're describing it, so that the audience can get to know what exactly it is and how they can benefit from. So if I was to define RPA, basically I'll say it's a technology that automates repetitive tasks. And the keyword here is not just repetitive and mundane, but the digital tasks. So you cannot use RPA for everything. You can only use RPA for digital tasks. In other words, you can only automate it for systems that are already digital. Okay, so that's key to understand. So that's what RPA is. We are automating repetitive and mundane digital tasks. For the guys who didn't know the definition, that can help. But even as we dig in, maybe we can look at where it is from and how long did it exist, or has it existed. So if you do a lot of research on this thing, you'll find that some people will take you to as early as 1920s. But for my own take, I think RPA began when we had machine learning, and then it has evolved as AI and machine learning has also evolved. And it will make sense why I'm mentioning this as we continue with this presentation. And then we had computer vision, and I think 1989 was key because of computer vision, because there's a lot of use cases that in RPA that are very important, that depend on a computer vision for automation. Then another key step was in the 90s when we had screen-scrapping, which is also a key in RPA automation. You can read along the slides as I present. And then another key step. So remember 1989, 90s, and 2000s. So those are key steps in the journey of RPA. And 2000 is even the most key, is because of the first RPA software was launched. And here's the thing. RPA software, notice that's the RPA software and the rest are just features, or they are concepts within tech. It's because RPA software is a constitution of screen scrapping, computer vision, artificial intelligence, and also machine learning. So as early as 2000, we had RPA software. Now the question is, how come we didn't hear about it? No one cared about it. It's because, one, it had limited capabilities, and two, if you remember 2000s, most business processes were still manual, and they had not yet been digitized. So there was no point of having an RPA solution. From the definition, RPA it only automates repetitive and mundane digital tasks. So it wouldn't make sense for it to have been used in 2000s. So in 2015, it became popular. And I've listed the reasons why it became popular. You can read along. First, its capabilities or the features became more stable. Two is most business processes had moved to digital. So now there was a point to have RPA or to automate those processes. And last but not least is the fact that we had legacy systems, and those legacy systems, we could not integrate them to newer systems. And also, most legacy systems, we were so scared. I think we are still so scared in most places. We are still scared to even touch the code, just to modify it a bit for us to create an API out of them. So that need created an opportunity for RPA. So with RPA, you don't even need to change code on a legacy system, for example, or any other system. What RPA does, it actually interacts with the UI user interface. So if I want data from a legacy system, what I'll do, I'll just build a bot that will go and interact with the UI, export that data to, for example, an Excel, and then the bot will now take data from that Excel file or CSV file, and then push it to either an API or push it to whatever you want to do with it. Push it to a database, and then you use the data however you plan to use them. Then, of course, today we have much more advanced capabilities with RPA because of advancement of machine learning, and also business currently business are really pushing to reduce costs, and the more you automate, the more you save a lot of time, and also you improve on what we call cost leadership in most businesses. So I've kind of covered some of these things, why RPA is important, but I'll also just highlight them. So one of them is to improve efficiency. With RPA, efficiency here means accuracy. So with RPA, for example, think about when you're using an Excel sheet and you have to process all those numbers. As a human, that can be really hectic. So when you automate the whole process of processing numbers within that Excel sheet, regardless of the amount, you improve accuracy in terms of how you handle the data. It also improves productivity because now your staff shift from any repetitive and mundane and boring tasks to creative, cognitive, and human-facing. Human-facing is mostly customer care. So they let the bot do the mundane and boring and repetitive tasks, and you focus on, and let the staff focus on things that are more creative, that are more involving, that are more exciting. And also it improves SLA. So SLA here is, for guys who are in school, SLA basically means service level agreement. So service level agreement is what your company will promise the customer. So we'll promise the customer that if you have an issue with your internet and you send us for support to help you sort it out, our SLA to you is we will make sure that issue is sorted within 24 hours. So that's an SLA. So that's a promise. Now, the challenge with that is, if you're depending on human support, is that when people have gone on holiday or have gone on leave, there's no one who will be there to support you. And then that means that you won't meet that SLA of 24 hours. So what automation does, it can work irregular hours. It can work whether it's overnight, whether it's during holidays. It's very predictable in that sense. Then also it improves customer NPS. So those guys who are in school, NPS basically means confidence. So customer confidence, because it's always on, because you know the bot will always do what you told it to do. And also it's predictable. Then the other thing is non-disruptive, and this I had explained because of the legacy system. Most legacy systems, you don't want to even touch the code. Whatever, you don't want to mess with it at all. So you don't want to build an API by messing with the current code. So what you do is you let the bot deal with integration by interacting with the UI as a human being. Now, another reason, which I think it's more justifiable for anyone who has ever dealt with a lot of paperwork and a lot of administrative tasks. This is a research that was done by Automation Anywhere. So they discovered that 87% of office workers wish their work will deploy technology to automate many of the manual repetitive tasks in their work. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but one of the most hated administrative tasks is what? I don't know if you guys can guess it, but it is data entry. Most people don't like it because you end up dealing with a lot of softwares and a lot of data that it overwhelms you, and it's very, very much repetitive and mundane. So I thought I put this slide here, and it was very intentional for anyone who is now thinking up to this point of the presentation. Why do I need RPA, and how does it relate to the traditional automation? So traditional automation in this case, I refer to programming languages that you can use to automate processes. So how RPA differs or compares to traditional automation is that RPA mimics user actions. As I told you, that the bot will interact with the user interface and not the code. The other one is the fact that you have legacy systems. And just as I told you, the fact that the bot interacts with the user interface, it means that the legacy system code is safe. As we know, that is it's very sensitive because of the cost of it going down. And then also time to market, RPA is faster and easier to implement. And again, for adoption, RPA requires little to no programming skills. So I've mentioned RPA since the beginning of the presentation, and I've defined it. But what are the tools and how do we achieve RPA? Or how do we achieve automation in RPA? So there are tools that we normally use to achieve RPA. We have UiPath. So this is in the context of Safaricom, or my team in Safaricom, which is IT automation. So we have, in our team, we use 3. That is UiPath, Python, and Power Automate. So UiPath is the one that we use most. And then we have Python, which is, everyone is familiar with it. And then we have Power Automate, which is a tool by Microsoft, also very, very dependable. Now, all this, we use them depending on the use case. So you always end up choosing the best tool for the job. But these are not the only tools that you can use for automation or for RPA automation. Another example is Prism, and also there's another one called Automation Anywhere. So those are the other options that you have. But most of the time, you use the tool that the team has settled for, or the company where you're working for has already chosen. Of course, there are several other tools, but within Kenya, I think majority, the one that is more popular is UiPath, and there's another one called Process Maker that's also used. So those are the tools that we focus on as a team, and then the skill set that we focus on for us to be able to, for example, hire you if you're interested in joining our team, is basic programming knowledge. And as I indicated in the previous slide, for you to be able to be an RPA engineer or build something in RPA, you need to have some little to no programming language. And that's why I specify the skill set as basic programming knowledge. Because within RPA, you will find yourself dealing with certain programming concepts, such as, for example, variables, arguments, loops. So those general or basic concepts of programming are very important in RPA. Of course, when you're hiring, you have to look at: have you ever used UiPath or Python? So that can also help you to get in with the team. And then, if you're a junior engineer in this call, I will advise you to always focus on the third one more than the first one and the second one. The first one and the second one, you can always acquire them. In fact, when you're joining our team, you don't necessarily have to know UiPath, because even when I was joining my team, my current team, I didn't know UiPath at all. It took me a month to be able to learn it. The learning curve for UiPath is very short. So the reason I'm referring to junior engineers for communication, for the third item, which is mindset, is because there's a tendency when you're learning programming, when you get into engineering, you tend to focus on skill rather than yourself. Remember when you are getting employed, or when you're working on any project. Forget about even employment. When you're working on any project, the most important thing is how you handle the people that you interact with, the people. So you're gonna interact with a process owner, who is most of the time is control of the process that you're supposed to automate, or a customer. You need to learn how to communicate with them. You need to learn how to capture requirements. Then the other thing is, which I always find it a challenge to most people, most engineers, is humility. And humility is something that you need to learn by just self-examining. And I'll give you examples of humility. One example of humility is saying, I don't know. Just saying, I don't know. The other example of humility is saying, can you help me? Or I'm struggling. Those are very key, because once you are able to say those words, you are able to not waste a lot of time for the team to achieve a certain KPI or a certain goal. So that means is, for example, you reach out to, I'm part of your team, and then you say, I don't know. Then I'll look for someone to work with you. So that fast track you learning, and also fast tracks for the team to deliver. The other one, if you say, I am struggling, then it's easier for the team to come together and assist you to achieve whatever you are trying to achieve, whatever you're struggling with. So for any engineer, I always say the best engineer is not the person who knows the tool or the person who knows the skill set, but is the person who has the right mindset, be a good communicator, have humility to always communicate your status of the project, whether you're struggling or you don't know. Allow me to give you guys a demo of how UiPath works in terms of to achieve RPA automation. So this is screen scrapping, basically. So what this use case is going to do, it's the bot is going to run this process by first going to Wikipedia and then collecting list of Olympic gold medalists. And it will give us, once it collects that information, which is basically scrapping from Wikipedia, and then it will pass it to Excel, an Excel file. And within that Excel file, it will list them, as many as it has gotten. For this example, it has gotten like 100. And within that Excel sheet, it has columns that it will also create based on the data that it has collected. So you can see the athlete name, the nation, the sport, the year that the person was active, where they participated in, their gender, what gold, silver, or bronze they've won, and the total medals that they've won. So if you look at all that it got from Wikipedia. Now let me say something. So this automation was very quick. I had to slow it down. It's very, very quick, and that's one of the advantages of RPA automations. They're very, very quick. They've been highly optimized as tools. Of course, not all features are this fast, but most of them are very, very fast. Now, if you think about this concept of what I've just shared with you, think of Wikipedia as a legacy system. The bot has gone to that legacy system. It has screen scrapped the data that you want. It has passed them to an Excel. But that's not the necessary place that it will have to pass it to. You can have a use case where instead of passing it to an Excel sheet, it passes it to a database, which is either MySQL or Postgres, whatever you use, or it passes it to an API. So look at it like that. So instead of just one way, look at it in terms of, okay, how many use cases can I recreate out of just this one use case? The other thing is, if you are to make this current use case efficient, instead of it just getting the data and creating an Excel file and then storing it on a folder, we can also have the bot take that Excel file and put it on a SharePoint folder, for example, so that more than one person can access it. Or better yet, what we can do is once it has gotten that Excel file, it sends an email. So imagine you have a use case that every single morning you always have to generate a report and then send it to maybe to your manager or someone. So this use case will fit that bill. So instead of you doing all that every single morning manually, you can build a bot that can do this. Now, if it's not every morning, what about if it is every hour? If for example, if it's a CRM, or instead of it generating an Excel file, it sends a notification based on maybe a threshold that you guys have put for maybe if there's an issue with maybe a system that you're supporting, maybe a database, for example, or whatever it is. So this use case can be a replication of several other use cases. Now let's go to demo 2, which is data entry. So this is the bot picking information from an invoice and then inserting or generating the same report, generating the same information on an invoice system. So it does that, inputs them. So this is what someone can do manually as data entry, but the bot now does it instead of the staff. Now think of how many invoices you can have in a day or at any given time. If you had like 1,000 invoices, if you had like 100 invoices, the bot will do all these things. And once it does that, it can send an email. What you can see is an Outlook email that has been sent. And that email can be to acknowledge that it has received the email or it has completed the processing, or any other notification that you want the bot to give once it has done the process. Now, I want to share with you guys what, as a team, we've been able to do. And it's good that we are in this specific one called payroll element entry. So this payroll element entry is one of the use cases that we've done. And this use case is exactly what you've seen from the last demo. It involves data entry. So basically capturing payroll elements and then passing them to a payroll system. So initially this was being done by the HR manually. You can imagine how many data they had to handle for each staff, depending on how many elements they were supposed to enter. So once this was automated, over 3,000 man hours for the last 7 months have been realized. And of course, we have eliminated the manual input of payroll elements and reduced human errors and work overload. So the other use case that we've been able to do in our team is DB health checks. So imagine every morning when you arrive at work, you have to generate reports for the health status of every database. Now, if it's one database, it's easy. Think of if it's over 100 DBs or even more, it becomes something else. So that's what the bot that we built, the process that we automated, and the bot executes every early morning for the DB team to be able to, at least by the time they're starting their day, they already have the report that can help them now make decisions on how to respond to health status of each DB. Yeah, so almost over 1,000 man hours monthly that has been realized from that. Now, I probably you guys have questions, or probably you guys feel that I'm talking too much. I hope I'm not talking too quick, and I'm trying to keep time also. Yes, so based on what you've seen, maybe it's a good time for me to share with you my day as an engineer in RPA. So my day basically starts at 7 when I have early meetings, or 8 when I don't, when now it's a normal working day. And between 8 and 9, if I'm not having early morning meetings, I'll be working on a use case. Then 9 to 10 is always a stand-up, just to update the team on progress, or if I have any blockers, I can share with them so that I can be unblocked. Then from 10 to 1 and from 2 to 5 p.m. is the same thing. I'm either having meetings or I'm working on a use case. Then most of our deployments, we do them in the evening, because there's less traffic in most of the systems. So it's just a strategy a good strategy to adopt for us. So that's basically my day. It's just open-ended, and sometimes, depending on the day, sometimes if you have a lot of support use cases in production, then we have to really work overtime. So even as I end this presentation, I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys, and also for me to respond to questions. I'll just call upon everyone if you're interested in RPA. there's opportunity to learn. One of them is through UiPath Academy. You can just search UiPath Academy on Google, and then you'll find it. Actually, it's the first link there. If you can also go to LinkedIn Learning. I've seen most of the tutorials there. They're very helpful, and also for YouTube, all of them are helpful. Just pick any of them, just go through it, whether it's for UiPath or whether it's just RPA, just to get more knowledge apart from what you've learned today, and just learn something. Another thing, you can join the community. Victor, I'm almost done. Don't worry. So you can also join the community. So we have a Safaricom community, and within the community we have an RPA chapter. So soon enough, when there's a call for you guys to join, you can always join us on the RPA chapter if you're interested. And then within the country, within Africa actually, we have an RPA community on WhatsApp group. So we do a lot of interactions there. I'll be sharing with Kamochu and Marlin the link to the WhatsApp group if anyone is interested to start interacting with the professionals in the group. But other than that, I think I'm almost done. So in conclusion, as you can see, you can always chat me on Twitter, or you can reach out on LinkedIn. We just have a conversation on whether it's RP or just anything really. And if you're interested to know more about my journey, I joined Safaricom just last year. That is around August. Before August, I was a contractor in Safaricom from June the same year. And then once I did my interview in August, I was confirmed. So what normally happens is you get a job advertisement, and then you apply, and then you go through the normal technical standard of all companies. So you do the technical interviews, you pass the technical interviews, you do the one-on-ones, technical interview, once you pass that, then you go through HR, then you're in. Since I had never done RPA or UiPath, in fact, I was hearing about UiPath last year. I was given 1 month to learn it while I'm doing a project which was slightly scary, but the best way to learn anything in engineering is basically being thrown in the deep waters. And I was able to hack it. And from there, I've done several use cases with the team. I'm one of the guys who is leading the team in RPA. And the reason why that is because I'm passionate about what I saw and the advantages that I've realized just from what we have achieved so far, and even the potential of RPA in the industry. Yeah, before that, I was a consultant. So if there's any consultant here, I know how it feels to be a consultant. And actually, I've enjoyed my journey through tech in Kenya, and looking forward to the opportunities that we get. So I'm open to questions right now. So Marlin, maybe you can take over. And if I missed anything, you can kindly remind me.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anybody who has a question from the audience? And just one question as the others prepare. What would you say was the best part of your job?
The best part of my job?
Yes.
It's because it's satisfying. The reason why I'm saying it's satisfying is because normally every Friday we do what we call sensitization, in people embracing, or the staff embracing IT automation. There's all over the world, there's fear of robots taking over, and so what we do is show people the advantages of RPA as opposed to what the media has always speculated about robots and automation. And one thing you've learned, one thing that we've learned within the company is how much pain repetitive and mundane and boring task really affects the staff, especially when you're dealing with Excel. Some people struggle with just sitting down because of their backs. And when you're dealing with a lot of data, you really have to sit down for a long time. if a staff member comes to you and tells you that for me to be able to receive customer care calls, I have to log into different systems, and then you tell them we have a solution for that. So you just need to do one login, and then the rest the bot will do. You're actually changing lives. You're not just apart from just adding value, which is important to the company, you're also adding time and peace of mind to another human being. So for me, I believe that's what I enjoy. Those success stories when people are excited about the positive and the impact that automation can give them, than what the media has always perpetuated, which is guys are going to lose their jobs or their livelihoods.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else with a question? With the rise of AI, do you think roles such as what you do could potentially go away, or the need for such engineers would be reduced?
Yes. Is there a fear? No. Tech will always evolve. Tech will always evolve, and opportunities come with evolution. So if you look at, there's something that I learned from my director in DIT. DIT is one is the department within we work in, and she always said that focus on employability and not job security. She always taught us that, and the same has always been echoed by our HR. If you're so much worried about your work, then you lose focus about your career. So focus on building your career. You have passions. Focus on those passions. If there's a reason why you're doing tech. You're not doing tech because you can program in PHP or Python. You're doing tech because you like solving problems. If you focus on solving problems, regardless of what happens to the current tools that you're using, you'll always have an opportunity to solve future problems, because problems are, it's part of this world. There are so many, you cannot exhaust them. And by solving a problem, you always add value to someone else's life. So yeah, that's how I'll approach that question.
Okay, that was a very good way to put it, because at Natujenge, our goal is to build the next generation of engineers so that they can be able to solve problems for Africa and beyond. So yes, thank you. If there's any question from the audience.
I think I have a quick question.
Yeah. Chancha, maybe you can introduce yourself. I saw you had a very interesting title, so maybe let us
So I'm Chancha Jacob. I work with Meta as an engineering manager. Anyway, the question that I had, I can see a lot of value for RPA in for larger organizations. Do you see like an opportunity where maybe if you're a smaller business, maybe you're running your butchery, or you're running your local mom and pop? Do you see an opportunity for RPA to also be used in this model?
Yes, I see a lot of opportunity. There's something that I missed to capture, which is how you deploy processes that you've automated. So there are two ways of deploying these processes once you automate. So one, you can deploy it on an orchestrator, which is basically a cloud that helps you manage the processes as you assign them to the bots for them to execute. So the advantage of the orchestrator is to help you manage resources, and also for you to enable manage also triggers and what time you can leverage on which bot is idle at any given time. Then when you deploy them locally, it means only one bot can execute. Now, to answer the question that Jacob has asked, thank you for that question by the way, is with automation can only follow digitization. So if they have mundane repetitive tasks and they have already digitized processes, then yes, we can automation can be done, and they can leverage on RPA. A good example is, for example, if they have accounting processes, they can be automated. If they have if they're doing sales and then they generate a report and then they want to balance the books, yes, it can be automated. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking at when you're automating a process is, one, you have to look at is the process mature? So in other words, is the process not going to change at all in the future? If the process is predictable, in other words, the inputs and outputs are very much known, then you can automate it.
Thanks, been very informative.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. Kamuchu has his hand raised, so I think he has a question.
Yeah, mine is actually, yes, maybe a question and a comment. Thank you, Bwana Cecil.
Thank you.
Yes, for allowing, and just to respond to Chencha, let me also put my video. I know some of you know we have the bad manners of not putting the videos on. Yes, but thank you so much for accepting to come and take us through this exciting field. I think, as Marlin mentioned, our objective is to ensure that these people that are here do not blame us that we didn't give them a chance to learn. I think some of us learned the hard way. We can make it easier for them. So thank you for responding to the call and even expressing the interest to come and share with us. It has been quite informative for me. And maybe the only, and I can relate with what Chencha mentioned, because I was wondering whether it makes a lot of sense if this is to be applied maybe in a big corporate like Safaricom, KCB, Corpbank, because they have a lot of manual tasks that are done and a lot of files, and this could be very beneficial. But I like the fact that you reminded us that it can also work for small organizations. And maybe that points to my question, because how difficult is it to be having, for a small organization, I could be having a task that maybe I'm loading data and just a few records. I think one of the things that I would like to see from you, and maybe it's an ask for the follow-up session, you could actually come and show us how to just do one thing. I know some of you say that seeing is believing, though I met someone who says that believing is seeing, depending on where you come from. But I was wondering whether you are willing to just one day just show us like a real thing hands-on, so that we can also get excited. And if possible, you can share the sample code, because I know most of the guys here are the graduates of the University of Stack Overflow. They don't like reading, but they like just checking stuff to get started and make a few modifications here and there. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kamochu. Yeah, we can always have a follow-up session to do now practical. I don't know how you'll word it, but yes. So yes, definitely a follow-up will be something that we'll look in, and we can organize. Yes, it's a yes from me. Kamochu.
Oh yes.
Thank you, Marlin. Over to you now.
Yeah.
To ensure that happens.
Sure. Is there anyone from the audience with a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
So the RPA automation that you've been presenting, is it similar to how you do, like, let's say, a clone job?
Okay. Yes, in some way. So clone job is basically for scheduling tasks. Yes. So with RPA, we also schedule tasks, but also we also schedule tasks, and also we use triggers. So it's the same concept in terms of to trigger tasks. Like, for example, if you automate with Python, I think mostly you'll go with that. In some cases you go with cron job. But now that depends with the tool that you're using. So if it's Python, you can go with cron job. With or PHP. With UiPath, for example, you don't need a cron job. It has its own triggers that you can handle. Now the difference comes in is the fact that, for example, you want a process that you can interact with the user interface. Cron job only can trigger or schedule processes that are traditional programming oriented. While UiPath, for example, and most RPA tools that are recent, you can trigger or run processes that interact with the user interface. So if you want to automate a process that involves the user interface, then you won't need a cron job. You'll mostly need the toolkit for specific what you've developed with, whether it's UiPath, whether it's automation anywhere. Yeah.
Elvis Mburu is asking a question. He's asking, can RPA be used in cases such as data scraping in the data science field?
The data scrapping, yes. I don't know what data science entail, because I haven't really looked at the processes yet. But if it's data scrapping, yes, it does.
So anybody else with any question who's not comfortable asking it in this session, I'm sure you can follow Cecil on Twitter or LinkedIn, and he will be gracious enough to engage you in any conversation that you'd have regarding RPA. Thank you, Cecil, for being the leader for this forum, for the masterclass. We appreciate it, and it has been a very insightful session. I have learned quite a bit about how RPA is used in system or software designs and how it helps to automate processes. And I'm sure it also just makes work easier on the business side of any software engineering processes. It's been a pleasure having you, and we look forward to having other follow-up sessions with you going forward. So thank you so much for hosting us, so gracing us with your masterclass or your knowledge today. So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the follow-up session and any other session.